that she's going to be safe, going to be well looked after. To think that somebody did that, it's horrible. Auntie Val, she was just such a wonderful, lovely person. She was fun, she loved people, she enjoyed life, and she was kind of the hub of the family. And she had this really, really lovely skill of making you feel so special and so loved. Her health on the whole was good. She was active. She'd worked hard all her life, and she was just enjoying her later years.
On Monday the 12th of November 2018, 75-year-old Valerie Kneale was at home with her husband Bill. During the evening meal, she suffered a stroke and was admitted to Blackpool Victoria Hospital.
She was checked over, and she was doing okay. She was sat up, she was communicating, she was talking. Obviously, she was going to have challenges in her recovery, but we were all very hopeful of a positive outcome. Her children wanted to stay with her that evening, but the hospital said, you know, really she's in the best place that she can be and there's no need. She's going to be absolutely fine.
But later, during her first night in hospital, Valerie's condition took a turn for the worse and she suffered a second stroke.
The immediate family went to the hospital and they were told that the prognosis or the outlook wasn't going to be really very good at all. So they made that decision to not have any further treatment, and obviously we were just waiting then for the inevitable. We spent some time with her. I remember telling her that the sun was shining and that there was that the sky was blue and that just to relax.
Valerie never regained consciousness. 5 days after being admitted to hospital, she died, surrounded by her family.
Losing her left a huge gaping hole in the family, and it was hard because, you know, the week before she was fine and then the week later she wasn't with us anymore.
In the following days, a post-mortem examination was carried out to try to establish what factors led to her death.
We weren't really looking for answers to anything. I think we just expected the post-mortem to say that she died of a stroke.
But the results of the post-mortem were so alarming that the pathologist contacted detectives at Lancashire Constabulary.
It's a conversation I'll never forget. But the pathologist had established that actually she had sustained a serious violent injury that had led to her death.
Valerie had been assaulted, possibly sexually, which had led to fatal internal bleeding. And the post-mortem established that the attack had happened whilst Valerie was a patient at the hospital.
It took me a while to process it, really, and I couldn't believe that somebody could have been assaulted in this way, such a serious assault, whilst in hospital, and I really was truly shocked. So one of the hardest things in this investigation was telling Mrs. Kneale's family that their mother and grandmother, who they thought had died of a stroke, had actually died as a result of a serious violent attack.
To think that somebody did that to a lovely, lovely person at a time when she was helpless, at her most vulnerable, where she couldn't shout out, she couldn't defend herself.
The police launched a murder investigation, but evidence has been hard to come by.
This has been a particularly challenging investigation due to the fact that we were only alerted to the incident some weeks later after Mrs. Kneale died. The forensic opportunities on the ward were significantly reduced. So our investigation has been very much focused around identifying people who have been onto the stroke unit during the relevant times. In order to do that, we have interviewed thousands of individuals, including staff members, other patients, visitors to those patients, just to piece together the timeline of events.
But 4 years later, the attacker still hasn't been identified.
There's a real worry to the investigation and to the hospital that this could be just one of a number of attacks. This may be at the hands of somebody who is a predator and who may have committed previous attacks of this nature and may continue to do so.
We're left with a huge wound that can't even begin to heal until we find out who's responsible for doing that. And so that we can get justice